Hi everyone, thanks for watching this video today. My name is David, I'm a life coach, and I help people heal from trauma. In today's videos, I'm going to go over the subtypes of narcissism and the disorder, narcissistic personality disorder. Kind of give you a little history of this and help you guys understand narcissism a little more, I hope. Before I do, please, if you could, go down and subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification bell if you want to get an alert when my videos come out. And vote if you can. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Go down in the description box or the box and comment box and tell me why. I would love that. And ask me any questions you have. I will answer all of your questions. Thank you very much for your support. So, like I said, I'm going to go over a little bit of the history. I've studied a lot of this subject for years now. I never stop. My learning never stops. I love learning, and I've learned more recently. I've been studying the Diagnostic statistic manual that doctors use to diagnose their patients with narcissistic personality disorder, and I have a lot of other references I'll put down in the description box that I used to make this video. So I want to go over a little bit of the history of narcissism and the disorder, and I'm going to go over a lot of different theorists and what we know today and what we use today, how we got here. I hope you find this interesting. I sure do. I know a lot of you study this subject to learn more about your own life, to learn about the people that maybe you grew up with or had relationships with in your adulthood, why they did some of the things they did, things like this. So I hope this video helps with that. Let me know, please. Thank you. So the Austrian psychoanalyst Otto Rank published his earliest description of narcissism. This is the earliest description of narcissism that we have, published in 1911. Where he kind of classified narcissism as self-admiration and vanity. Excuse me. But today, like I said, we use the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. And the first edition of it came out in 1968. And today we're using the 5th edition that was published in 2013. Narcissistic personality disorder was first entered into the DSM in the 3rd edition. And this disorder became recognized starting in the 1950s. So it's been around for a while. But in the 1950s is when they finally started talking about it as, classifying it as an actual disorder. Back then it was classified as 3 different types: the normal adult narcissism, the normal infantile narcissism, and the pathological narcissism. So a number of theorists suggest subtypes, but always it seems to always go back to the overt or covert, and that's something that we use today. Some people tell you there's only 2 subtypes, overt and covert, and I'm going to show you how these 2 came about and how everyone's theory kind of relates to that overt covert. Overt being the grandiose narcissist, covert being the vulnerable. So I'll give you some description words of overt. Overt is grandiose, oblivious, willful, exhibitionist, thick-skinned, phallic, attention-seeking, entitlement, arrogance, little observable, anxiety, socially charming, oblivious to others' needs, and interpersonally exploitative and envious. Whereas the covert narcissist is more vulnerable, hypersensitive to others' evaluations, closet, thin-skinned, inhibited, manifestly distressed, outwardly modest, shy, quietly grandiose, inward, extreme sensitivity to slight, avoidance of the spotlight, and identifies with suffering and distress. Always has it worse, always has it the worst, the victim. And then both, when people have both, it's extraordinarily self-absorbed and harbors an unrealistic grandiosity. So, someone named Burston published something in 1973 that there's 4 types of narcissism. And the first one he calls craving. Individuals who are clingy, demanding, needy. And that would fall under the covert. Then the second one he describes as paranoid. This is critical and suspicious. That would be under the overt. Number 3 is manipulative. derives satisfaction from conscious and deliberate deception of others. That would be the covert. And then the fourth one he calls the phallic. That's aggressive, the exhibitionistic, reckless, and daring under the overt. Then I go to Konut and Wolf, 1978. They said that there's 3 subtypes based on interpersonal relationships. The first one called the merger hungry, continuously attack and define themselves, or continuously attach and define themselves through others. Like no personal identity. Finds their identity in other people and continuously attaches. The second one that they describe is the contact shunning contact. Avoid social contact because of fear their behaviors will not be admired or accepted. The number 3 is the mirror hungry. Tend to display themselves in front of others. Okay, then we go to, I got a couple more here. Next one is Milan. In 1969, 1981, and 1998, he finally published what he calls 5 subtypes of narcissism. The amorous, which is prominent histrionic features, exhibitionistic. That's kind of like the histrionic. Number 2, unprincipled, exploitative, and antisocial features. That's where we start to get to antisocial personality disorder. Number 3, compensatory. Elevations in avoidant and or passive-aggressive traits. The covert, right? Being avoidant and being passive-aggressive. That's very covert. Number 4, the elitist. Self-promotion and inflated self-concept. Totally overt, right? Number 5, the last one that he describes, it's called the fanatic. Paranoid features and omnipotence, that means godlike. So there's been a 20-year-long study by Wink in 1992. He published 3 patterns of narcissism. One he calls hypersensitive and vulnerable. A steady decline relative to how they had been functioning in their early 20s. So they're saying after the early 20s, they start declining in their life. The willful or grandiose. He says showed little change at 43 years old relative to 21 years after showing growth in the late 20s. So I take that as had a little growth in their 20s, but really hasn't changed since they were 21. And the studies goes till they're 43 years old. I call personality disorders are really, they're very rigid, right? No change, no flex, no bend, rigid. And that's why a lot of people claim that narcissists will never change. So the third one that Wink describes is called the autonomous and healthy narcissism. Following conflict in late 20s, there's a surge of personal development in their early 40s. And they use their narcissism for satisfying relationships and career success. That's what he classifies as the healthy narcissism. All right, and then I've got Roos, Shedler, Bradley, and Western in 2008. It says there's 3 subtypes. The grandiose malignant, which is angry, manipulative, and lacking empathy or remorse. And then the next one is fragile. So the first one was overt, wasn't it? And this one, fragile, would be covert. Demonstrated grandiosity under threat as a defense mechanism. That's something that a lot of doctors and theorists would say that narcissism is in the first place. A defense mechanism. Feelings of inadequacy and anxiety. And they vacillate between superiority and inferiority. And that's another common theme that I want you guys to start hearing here, is that narcissists can vacillate between the overt and covert. So that might be confusing to you guys, or the definition of overt and covert, those examples may be confusing to you. You're like, guys, they're kind of both. And this would be depending on how they're feeling, depending on the situation, or they feel somebody put them in. So under threat, defensive, and be the covert, and then maybe feel good, nothing's bothering them at the time, less stress, and then would be the superior, feel the superior rather than inferior. And then the third one that they describe is high functioning. So the grandiose, competitive, attention-seeking, sexually provocative, adaptive, and functioning and succeed. Found that really interesting. So many theorists express vacillating between the two subtypes, overt and covert. Overt presents with grandiosity, exhibition, and entitlement, where the covert is in the face of fear, depressed, depleted, painfully inferior, shy, timid, and inhibited over the exhibitionist and grandiose. So it is kind of like that defense mechanism, right? It's all about reacting. So today, the DSM-5 is the standard for diagnosing their clients. And besides the subtypes, they think of it as like a spectrum that we're all on. And there's a certain specific criteria that you have to be to have the disorder. So you could think of, if I read, and I'll read some of the basic diagnostic traits. And you guys, all of us, might have one or two. Might even be somewhat healthy, they're saying. But as you get higher on that spectrum, you eventually have the disorder. And that criteria is 5 out of the 9 traits. So I read this here. I wrote this down here. They have significant problems with their sense of self-worth, stemming from a powerful sense of entitlement. This leads them to believe they deserve special treatment and to assume they have special powers, are uniquely talented, or they are especially brilliant or attractive. Their sense of entitlement can lead them to act in ways that fundamentally disregard or disrespect the worth of others, of other people. I find that extremely interesting. And I always compare people with this disorder to children because they're really, really emotionally underdeveloped. They haven't really developed into full functioning, healthy adults. And so their behaviors are so childlike, childish. They might have had halted development. So what I'll do here, just before I end the video, I'm going to read the 9 diagnostic criterial traits from the DSM, the actual ones that doctors use to diagnose patients with this disorder. First of all, NPD was broken down or was classified into a certain specific cluster. Out of 10 personality disorders, all 10, they're categorized into different clusters, A, B, and C. And NPD is under the cluster B. And that's classified as wild, also known as dramatic, emotional, and erratic. So here's the 9 traits. And I'm not going to go into them. I'm just going to read them, what they are, real quick. Grandiose self-importance. Second one is preoccupied with fantasies of grandeur. Number 3 is feeling special and unique, believing that they're special and unique more than others. Number 4 requires excessive admiration, a little bit different than attention. Admiration. Number 5, a sense of entitlement. And number 6, interpersonally exploitative. And number 7, lacking empathy. Number 8, envious of others, envy, wanting what you have, and may also think that people are envious of them. And then the last one is arrogant or haughty behaviors or attitudes. If you check 5 out of 9, you might have the disorder. Like I said, don't be scared. And don't be scared of any of these things. It does not mean if if you're saying, oh, there's some things that I have, it doesn't mean you have narcissistic personality disorder. You may be a little high on the spectrum, and these are things that everybody can work on and fix, okay? Get help to do these things. Never diagnose yourself or other people. I'm hoping that this gives you more information to help you better understand your experiences, to help alleviate guilt and shame, because everything that has ever hurt in your life that you don't understand causes shame, makes us feel like bad people. And so understanding this more and more may help you feel a little bit better about your experiences. Also, this may offer some insight in the future with people you meet, some behavioral traits that you realize that you don't care for, maybe red flags, stuff like this. But try not to judge people. Like I said, this is a spectrum. And just because somebody has one of these things in your life doesn't mean that the relationship has to end. Okay? I'd love to hear your guys' feedback. What do you think down below? Let me know. I'll answer everybody's questions. Please keep learning. You know, I know quite a bit about this topic. If you think that I can answer some of your questions, ask me. I also have a weekly question and answer video I do every single Monday. And you're more than welcome to go on there and ask me anything you want, and I'll always answer your questions. Let me know some of your own experiences. I love it when people share those. I appreciate those very much, for you taking your time to thank me or tell me, you know, about your own life, and asking questions. I appreciate questions too. Thank you guys. Anybody that wants coaching, you can find me at daviddemars.com, and I really appreciate all your support for this video. Thank you. Love yourself first. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.